She knew this would be her last interview. She knew that for every word spoken, they would try to erase her name from history. That is why she spoke quickly, with almost no pauses, chiseling each prophecy as if into stone. She painted a picture of the future that made the blood of even hardened generals and intelligence analysts run cold. The Americans will withdraw their troops from Afghanistan and Iraq. But this will not bring peace. I clearly see Russian weaponry there. A new, additional deadly virus will appear. It will attack the human blood system itself. There will be a leak from a laboratory. It will be more terrifying than leukemia, but the Russians will be able to create a cure for it. A terrible tsunami awaits Japan. I see an accident at their power plant. People will be exposed to radiation. They've had problems inside that station for a long time, which they are desperately trying to solve but cannot. A major catastrophe will occur in China. Many people will die and national mourning will be declared. It will last for exactly 3 days. A few years after this interview, in 2008, China would indeed declare a 3-day national mourning period after a monstrous earthquake that claimed tens of thousands of lives. And shortly after these shocking words were broadcast, the seer herself vanished. She died in complete and unexplained isolation. The official cause of death was never named, as if she were simply deleted. Welcome. Today, we will unseal an archive for which, quite possibly, a human life was paid. Our world today is balanced on a knife's edge, on the brink not just of a global war, but of a final, total reset of the entire world system. Israel and Iran, America and China, Russia and NATO, every spark could ignite a global fire. But what causes panic among military analysts today was predicted decades ago by a woman whose name influential powers diligently hid from the public. She was called the Serbian Vanga. Her predictions and visions were studied by general staffs, and her sudden death remains shrouded in a thick veil of mystery. Her name was Verica Obrenović. And the most important thing now is not just that her prophecies continue to come true with frightening, almost mathematical precision, but the fact that after her last, most sensational interview about the future, she was gone. A familiar scenario, isn't it? As if someone very powerful decided to silence her forever. Personally, I don't believe in such coincidences. Her words were not just vague visions of the future. This was specific, almost intelligence-grade information. Collaborating with the general staff, she provided forecasts capable of changing the course of military operations and political alliances. She saw the weak points of enemies, predicted betrayals, and economic collapses. That is precisely why she was so dangerous. A prophet who cannot be bought or intimidated becomes a mortal threat to those who build their power on lies and secrecy. In this episode, we will reveal the most shocking predictions of the woman who saw the collapse of the European Union, the fall of the dollar, and the unification of Slavic lands at a time when the whole world still blindly believed in the American dream. And by watching this video to the end, you will understand why they feared her so much and why her predictions are more relevant today than ever. Verica Obrenović saw the future world without rose-colored glasses. She did not try to soothe, she warned. When everyone was talking about globalization, she was talking about disintegration. She predicted that Great Britain would split into England and Scotland, that Spain and Italy would divide, that France would be engulfed by a wave of protests and fires that would bring the country to the brink of civil war. She also saw what seemed unthinkable. Iran will attack Israel, defending the Palestinians. At the time, it sounded like fantasy. But years passed, and the world froze in anticipation of this very conflict. Verica asserted there will be no winners in this war. Only blood and destruction, but her most frightening visions concerned the powers that had ruled the world for decades. What will happen to the European Union? A journalist asked her. A new European Union will be formed, she replied. Serbia will join it. But many former members will be left out. Croatia, Slovenia. These countries will experience such a severe economic crisis that people will buy food on credit. It sounded like a death sentence for the European dream. And what will happen to NATO was the next question. Most countries will leave the alliance. NATO will only remain in America. Moreover, some countries, like the Czech Republic, Poland, and Slovakia, will themselves invite Russia to establish military bases on their territory. It sounded like madness, but today these words no longer seem so fantastic. But the collapse of these alliances, she said, was merely a consequence. The root cause was a deep internal crisis, a spiritual emptiness that had engulfed the Western world. She saw the peoples of Europe losing their identity, culture, and faith, eroded by waves of alien ideologies and uncontrolled migration. She said that the external shell of prosperity concealed a rotten core, and this rot would inevitably burst outward in the form of chaos. America will cease to be a threat to the world, she said, but the price for this would be horrifying. She painted an apocalyptic picture for the United States. There will be fires in California, that's on one coast, and on the other, floods, hurricanes, giant waves. I see palm trees swaying, houses collapsing, but this was only the beginning of the end. Her main warning for the U.S. concerned the Yellowstone supervolcano. It will activate. The eruption will trigger a whole series of earthquakes. For several days, the sky will darken with ash, the sun will not be visible. A global cooling will begin, a mini ice age. She claimed that unprecedented cataclysms would sweep across all of America. Such a catastrophe, according to her visions, would not be confined to one continent. It would become the trigger for a global food crisis. The ash in the atmosphere would destroy harvests across the planet, causing a famine of unseen proportions. This would provoke new waves of migration, as billions of people would move in search of food and warmth. The world would plunge into chaos, where old laws and borders would mean nothing. After this, Verica said, America would be occupied only with its own troubles. It would no longer be concerned with world domination. The fall of the hegemon would also bring about the collapse of its main symbol. The dollar will lose its status as the world currency. It will be devalued thanks to the policies of China and Russia, and the ruble will strengthen. The new center of the world was identified by her long before it became obvious. It was this alliance, Russia, China, and India, that Verica saw as the new center of the world. They are the ones who will make the important decisions for the entire planet. America is absent from this list. Its economy will be in bad shape, but a special place in her visions, of course, was reserved for Russia. And here, her words are most poignant and detailed. It is important to understand that Verica was not just a fortune teller. She worked closely with the Serbian General Staff. Her forecasts formed the basis of military strategies. She accurately described the location and method of an assassination attempt on President Milosevic, and she identified the exact location of the Yellow House, where organs were harvested from Serbs. She knew what was hidden from everyone. And this is what this woman said about Russia. Russia is the most powerful country in the world. It has weapons that not even the Americans have. It inspires an animalistic fear in them long before the events of 2014, when no one could have imagined it. She saw Crimea will peacefully leave Ukraine and will be under Russia's control, and then a prophecy that sends shivers down the spine today. Regarding the issue of Ukraine and Russia, I see military actions. The conflict is inevitable. Russia must be ready. The Ukrainians will lose the war. Many will leave to avoid participating in the clashes. Russia will emerge as the victor because the weapons it possesses are unlike any in the world. And most importantly, Ukraine will become part of Russia. I see the people greeting them with enthusiasm, waving Russian and Ukrainian flags. Gradually, Belarus will also draw closer. The Baltics, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania will also join Russia voluntarily. As soon as Russia begins to expand its borders, they themselves will agree to live together. Russia's victory, as Verica saw it, was not just a military triumph. She described it as the fulfillment of a historical mission. In a world mired in materialism and the rejection of traditional values, Russia, in her words, was to become an ark, a guardian of spirituality and true freedom. Its rise is not so much a geopolitical shift as the beginning of the planet's spiritual revival, a point of assembly for a new world. Notably, astrologer Tatiana Borscht, who works with the political elite, confirms these forecasts by looking at the movement of the planets. She says that the current conflict has several phases, and its conclusion with Russia's victory will occur in late 2025 to early 2026. It is after this, she says, that the collapse of NATO and the old European Union will begin. Two different systems, a mystical vision and cold astrological calculation, point to the same point in the future, but why is all this happening? Verica, like many others, said that we are living in an era of great transition, a change of entire epochs. The old world, built on the power of money and brute force, is agonizing before our eyes. Tatiana Borscht calls this the transition into the age of Aquarius, whose slogans are liberty, equality, fraternity, and it is in this agony of the old world that the most terrible threat, about which Verica warned, lies hidden, not a nuclear war, not an asteroid. The biggest catastrophe is a biological war, she said. This is her main warning to all of us. 10 years before all the events began, she saw secret biological laboratories on the territory of Ukraine. She foresaw the emergence of new, artificially created viruses. She said that the mad elites, trying to preserve their power at any cost, will stop at nothing. For them, ordinary people are just expendable material in their monstrous game. But even in this darkness, she saw light. Verica spoke of the birth of a new human. She claimed that children with a different consciousness, with different abilities, are already coming to Earth. Astrologers call them the sixth race. They are intuitive, talented, bright people for whom material values will not be the top priority. Creators will be in demand, she said. People who can create something, not just consume. They will become the cornerstone of the entire planet, and it will be a completely different world. The era of money, the era of lies and consumption is fading away. And all the cataclysms, all the wars and crises that we are experiencing are just the painful birth of a new, more just world. After these words, Verica Obrenović was gone. Too much truth, too much accuracy, too much power was in her words. And those who rule the old world are terrified that ordinary people will know too much. She spoke of the collapse of NATO today. Western politicians are shouting about it. She warned of floods. Holland is building dams. She said that Russia possesses a super weapon now. Even Pentagon experts admit it. Everything that has happened was described by her in advance. Now you know it too, and this is only a small part of the declassified archives. But even this is enough to understand. The future is not fantasy. It is a reality that is arriving faster than we can comprehend. Now you understand why her voice had to be silenced. Each of these prophecies is a blow to the foundation of the old world order. She didn't just predict. She tore off the masks, exposing the lies upon which the power of the global elites was built. The information you received today is what was supposed to be hidden from you. It is knowledge that gives you the power not to fear the future, but to understand its logic and be ready for it.